Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Charge Me Up event in which the Rhino Gore is added to the game, and we also have the return of Tower of Doom for the second ever Tower of Doom. It still pretty much feels brand new since they've only done one of them so far, and we'll be going over a bunch of stuff with that. But anyways, as far as the troop, it is brown, yellow arcane trait stones. These things are insanely good. Stock up on them. Earlier on in the game, you would use them for basically everything. You use them for cockatrice, you use them for Dragonian Monk, you use them for Bullet, you use them for pretty much everything. Later in the game, you'd use it for Gurgulfa as one of the best tanks in the game, as well as several mythics like Famine and stuff. But as far as this troop itself, it is basically useless, so unfortunately you'll be getting a lot of copies of something you don't really need. It's basically like a weaker version of Lamia in a way. It deals damage to an enemy and then half to the two adjacents, and if it ends up getting a kill, it'll get all of its mana back. And that's basically all it does. It's pretty underwhelming since Lamia can do essentially two of these, and it scales off their attack, so it could do way more damage than what this thing could ever do. And in late game, you can obviously see his value is horrifically bad, and in early game, it's not going to be much better, because even Lamia would get you better value, and it's only 8 mana instead of 12. Of course, Lamia can't always cast, because sometimes Charm doesn't have anything next to it, but more often than not, Lamia is going to be doing way more damage and be way better than this thing, so you basically never need to use this. It also, for whatever reason, has a new trait of 20% skull mitigation, so if you thought Armored was bad, here's one that's even worse. So yeah, don't even bother really as far as using this troop. You would maybe use it this week just to gold farm, and that is about it. Then never touch it again. And of course, get it for kingdom upgrades and stuff like that. Anyways, onto chest. It might be considered worth opening event keys this week, possibly. There's not too many good things in the drop table, but the most noteworthy thing is it is Broken Spire this week, and that means Infernus is available in the event key drop table, which is arguably the best mythic in the entire game right now at this current moment in time, and probably will be into the foreseeable future just because of how decent it is all around and everything that it does. But yeah, if you want an Infernus, it's not only there, but also in the Soulforge, as we'll be getting to a little bit later. But anyways, I just wanted to go and recap again Tower of Doom. So, of course, Tower of Doom, to be able to get the weapon that you get all these like little scroll things for, you would need to go and spend 500 gems. I would personally advise this just because crafting in the Soulforge is quite expensive, and to get this event done for your guild, you're pretty much going to need everyone going up to tier 4 anyways. Of course, smaller guilds, you might not want to do that necessarily, as 500 gems might be a lot of gems just to throw out for one single event, especially since this event is a little bit less good. Not as good as the other things like invasions and stuff like that as far as the actual reward output. So, I don't know, it's something that could be using rebalancing. I think they will be in the future. But at this current moment in time, it hasn't been, so we still have to deal with it as is. But yeah, tier 4, generally if everyone in your guild does it and plays the game mode decently, it's pretty much going to get done. As far as how to play the game mode decently, of course we are stuck to a single color of brown. We'll be going over teams in a moment. But basically you just go and have people scout out in your guild, have a entire list of which rooms are the correct rooms to go to, and basically just coordinate with your guild which room is the move on room. Other rooms that you might want to consider is the heroism scroll in order to clear out boss rooms, the power scroll, which ends up giving one stat to all of your extra bonuses here, which you stack up quite a bit if everyone in your guild keeps going for them, and the lucky room, which ends up counting for 2 doom kills, which is basically 2 kills for 1 single sigil, which is great value, because normally it would take about 4 sigils in order to get, it would take 4, it would take 4 sigils in order to get 1 doom kill. It would take 4 sigils to get the equivalent amount of 1 lucky room. So yeah, you're saving a lot by doing that. So definitely go for every single lucky room you ever see and let your guild know about them. But other than that, that's basically all you do, just go around scouting out rooms. Other than that, it plays pretty similarly to that of Delves, except for the fact that you get to use a new team every single time you go into a battle. And with that being said, let's go over a bunch of... Hey, there's my guild just doing a bunch of them. But anyways, let's go over a bunch of teams real quick. I'm not actually going to be using them since we're still at the earlier end. And we'll just be doing those on stream. But as far as some teams, I might still be revamping. But here are a bunch of different options I have briefly tested just in PvP to see if they would work up to Doom. And this is what I've come up with so far. So this very first one's actually my personal favorite so far, mainly for one reason. Dooms have a lot of death marks. And there's really only one cleanser that you can use that is brown that's not a hero weapon, and that is Diviner. Diviner has the capability of a 1 1/3 chance to cleanse, and it is essentially going to be your only consistent cleanse that you can use to get rid of death marks on your team. So basically, Gorgulfa into Diviner or Cockatrice into Diviner is essentially required if you want to have cleanse spam. It's going to be one of the only few methods. Do keep in mind, you may be seeing that I have a blue weapon here. You are allowed to use any colored hero weapon that you want, so of course we could go use this. And ironically, or oddly enough, for whatever reason, it's kind of weird that technically the best weapon to use would be basically never the doomed weapon of the week. You'd want to use the doomed weapons of the other weeks because they would not have conflict with everything else in the team. So obviously if we use a brown weapon with this team, that would not be too good, but we could use last month's blue weapon and boom, it's all good. So yeah, this works out pretty nice. It has Doom Skull spam. Basically every single good team, I feel like, would end up using a variant of Skull Spam for brown, simply because there is a lot of brown Skull Spam options. You can use Wrath, you can use Bloodhammer, you can use Keeper of Souls, Glaceon. There's definitely not a lack of Skull Spam brown options, and there's probably some really overpowered combo I haven't figured out yet. But here's another one out there, a little bit towards the safer side too. It has the Salvani Moor, so you have the Entangle constantly. It's always nice to have to make sure you don't just die out. Has the Resummon to first slot, so you keep getting it back, and it gets a lot of mana. Basically Jar of Eyes every single cast, and you just get to keep summoning and keep staying alive. So that's basically that. And of course you can still keep barrowing with Titan. As far as if you want to use the new weapon, I haven't figured out a expensive team for it yet, but if you want to build something very cheap, it is very easy to do, because all you end up needing is rares, actually. Of course, the weapon does cost 500 gems, or crafting it in Soulforge, but as far as the rest of the team, well, as far as what the weapon does, they're all basically the same. It deals damage to all enemies, +1 per tempering level, and if you have no clue what tempering level it is, basically whatever that number is what's being added to that, so that'll be 26 damage. That's your tempering level on it. It's basically how far the weapon is currently upgraded. But it then transforms all greens into Doom Skulls, and if there's a Doom on the opposing team, it creates another 5. So exactly the same as that blue weapon that did it to red, except this time around it does it to green. And of course it boosts based on all the browns on the enemy team, getting 3 mana back per each that it has on the opposing team. So overall, a pretty average weapon. I don't feel like the brown variant's going to be as good. The blue one was somewhat decent, just because it fit some color gaps and stuff like that, but the brown's going to be pretty bad just because there are so many good brown weapons at the moment, and converting away green isn't necessarily going to be too over the top. But anyways, Cockatrice, this is really good for mana drain and the Entangle. Basically just keep getting disables. It also ends up creating brown, one of the few browns that creates browns. Of course, there's that weapon, and you'd most likely just use it on Titan, of course. Goblin Shaman ends up creating greens with no downtime, so this will allow you to get alignment on the skulls to immediately go into the green convert into Doom Skull on the weapon. And Soothsayer is mainly there for the initial board control, and because it's cheap, and because it has Empowered, so it'll give you that little bit extra brown at the beginning, as well as a single cast that you'll be able to go and manipulate the board with. And overall, if you really had no options, it would be a pretty consistent thing to hit everything down with. And alternatively, if you didn't have that weapon, you could just go with another similar hero weapon that could do a decent amount of damage. Really, any of the other brown ones if you wanted to, or even any hero weapon in general, since you're not restricted by color on it. Anyways, next up, I definitely underestimated Yasmin's Pride when it first came out, and it is somewhat decent for particularly Tower of Doom, because it's really good at making sure you don't die, and that is pretty important. So basically this is as a Alchemist Moneylender loop into a Ketris with this thing on it to make sure that we can go and get up a bunch of HP and then just start hitting them with Ketris. So we'd most likely just want to cast this once or twice and then just keep hitting with Ketris. Ketris does boost ratio off of all that extra HP that we end up accumulating, and also from doing Alchemist Moneylender loop, every single red that will be taken during that will be increasing our damage as well. And yeah, basically just keep hitting them down with Ketrises. Next up is a Guards Avatar team. Basically just a relatively standard Guards Avatar team, with the only real difference being that this would normally be an Apothecary, but you could just use Jar of Eyes instead. If you don't have Jars of Eyes, you could just go use Orb of, well, I forgot what it's called, Prismatic Orb in last slot, that one that uses all 6 colors, and then you simply cast that onto Guard's Avatar and just keep getting it from there. Or you could even do it on Honor if you want to have a 100% chance of doing brown. But basically, Guard's Avatar, a lot of people may have picked this up recently just because it's required for 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 star White Helm, highest starred kingdom in the game. So if you haven't really gotten to use them yet, you might be able to use them now, because you can go do quite a bit of damage with this. You might not necessarily need the burn to undead or silence the daemon, so that could come into play. But of course, the main aspect is his 2-to-1 boost ratio based on his armor, and you can just do gigantic damage on that. Biggest issue with that is if they have Submerge. That's going to be a pretty big issue that you're not going to be able to do anything against. But in all other circumstances, that's going to be pretty nice. And that's basically all the teams I've kind of composed at the moment. I'll probably be definitely going and trying to figure out more later once we've actually gotten testing and getting a little bit deeper into the delves. But for now, that should give you enough to at least initially work with. Though I'm pretty sure the main thing that you're going to be using is Skull Spam of some sorts, just because of how many different options there are under Brown. You probably have at least one option to go down. Anyways, as far as events this week, we have ourselves a Sea of Sorrows for the Tuesday. For this Wednesday, we're going to be getting a new pet for the Urskea bonus there. It looks like a little snowman there. On Thursday, we do not have a class event, because on Friday, we are getting two things. Not only a new mythic, but also a new hero class. And yeah, that's all that. As far as the Soul Forge, as I mentioned earlier, there is only one thing that is worth crafting, and that is the Infernus, arguably the best mythic in the game. Well, it pretty much is. The only thing that you could theoretically say is maybe better situationally is Fairish Ra, just because it helps you farm souls better. But if you base it on absolutely every aspect, resource gaining, how quickly you can win, how good it is in certain situations, guild wars, everything, Infernus overall would be the #1 best mythic in the game, just because it does a lot of overall damage. It can't be countered by Submerge, it cannot be countered by Barrier, it does a bunch of explosions into a Storm. I believe still the only option that actually has something like that, a decent amount of explosions into a Storm. It has the best burn in the entire game, meaning literally if it didn't have a single other thing, it's just the burn, it would still be good, just because it would always be the best burner over everything else. And yeah, it just does so many things well that it's just amazing to have around. So definitely advise getting that if you need a boost to your PvP team, or pretty much literally any team out there. But anyways, other than that, I completely skipped over the event objectives here. Gosh, we got 10% to all beasts, 10% to all elementals, 400 extra gold in PvP when using this guy, and as far as our things, we just have to spam out PvP. And with that being said, let's just end it with this Rhino Gore. So if you're going to go farm gold this week, all you have to do is just go under casual PvP, and you can get both the objectives at once, just doing the 400 gold and getting a bunch of PvP kills. Just go in here, repick to something easy like firebombs or anything else. Use a pretty standard gold farm team, and you just throw a Rhino Gore in there. Greed for the extra gold, Cedric for the 100% extra gold. Not necessarily required, but definitely helps out a lot for Bronze Lock Pistol, and it just keeps spamming Bronze Lock Pistol. For up against firebombs, we technically wouldn't even need to go that far with it, but might as well. Go to that, go and get ourselves a nothing apparently. Let's take a blue. Doesn't seem like he gives us much, but he'll just firebomb us a few times. That's fine. What can we do here? So he just kills himself out. That is also perfectly fine. Doesn't even look like we'll need to cast. He'll just firebomb himself out. But we'll get an extra 400 gold for this on top of everything else that we'd already be getting for the battle. And this will also keep giving us 4 event gems every single time we do this, which will count towards our total for the week of getting 750. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be everything for this event. If you still have any other questions or anything you want me to go over, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. As I mentioned earlier, the stream later today will be a little bit earlier than normal, probably around about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or so, give or take about an hour. So do be wary of that. Also, the developers will be going over their the 4.2 stream later tonight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/infinityplus2. So if you want to go see them stream that, they'll be doing that later today as well, since I won't be around later. But anyways, guys, hope you all have a wonderful week. Best of luck with everything, and goodbye.